Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful day out here in California. One thing that I know is like California politics and like culture sometimes misses me. I gotta be honest about that. But the weather, I see why people deal with the BS here because the weather is fantastic sometimes. You know, it's been actually pretty hot the last couple of days. I think it peaked at 107 on a couple of days ago. But wallahi, it's cooled down a little bit, so we figure we'll do more streams outside, inshallah. So this topic means a lot to me because it's something I think that a lot of people, regardless of what kind of content creators make Tao and all that stuff, this is something they really don't talk about. And
You're good.
So one thing they don't talk about is how love is manipulated and used against men, and really modern day men, especially men that are conscious. It doesn't benefit us whatsoever to be in love or to even express love because it's looked upon as a weakness. And if you look at the men that are the most successful, it's men that are heartless. You know what I'm saying? Even throughout history, unfortunately, the conquerors and all that stuff, maybe they loved their wives and stuff like that, but they always, back then there were systems in place to create a disconnect between them and the people that they were related to and that they were in love with. There was always a sense of, hey, I will become heartless if you fail me. And we don't have that society, of course, anymore for various different reasons.
Yeah.
So this is something I want to elaborate on because my brother Terrence, especially, I have never been married. I don't have any children, but in particular, I think this probably hits him a little bit harder because he's had those experiences. So I'm gonna hand it off to you, man.
You hit it on the head, man. In love, when you express that, especially with a woman you've been with, man, and it's tough now, and it's not the woman's fault, but it's the fact that they embody the very narrative that actually helps to destroy the family. And the man who's trying to be good and do good, if he's not A, B, and C, i.e., money, status, and we'll just go with those two. If he doesn't have money or status, more than likely his woman will disrespect him here, regardless of whether or not their relationship was built on love. And I always quoted it from Dr. Phil Valentine. He said it best: women manipulate love to get power, and men manipulate power to get love. And so that tells you who really is in search for love. It's really the men. And so most of us are suffering from, or at least for me, I can speak from my personal experience. I've suffered from a lot of heartache and a lot of things that have brought me down as a man, to where I've been so low, where I've actually compromised my masculinity. I've actually compromised masculinity just for the sake of receiving something I thought was mutual, which was love, just for the sake of receiving love back in a relationship. And most of the time, that's what it comes down to. Nobody actually respects a man. We're looked at as tools, and no one can respect a tool that they can just use and throw away. Men are looked at as disposable. And that's why women, they get married and all these things, and they want these lavish weddings. Is because what can my husband provide me? And if he's not willing to provide me that, I guess he's not a man at all. And I don't even want him. Who's the next simp that I can actually, provide that for me? Because that's what women really want. And I saw it on a post on YouTube. Actually, it said it really, really distinctly, and it was a woman, by the way. So all of you out there who like to say, "Oh, you're a misogynist because you're talking about women," well, this was a woman saying this. She said, women are not built for beta males or masculine males. The modern woman is not built for either. Well, she wants a masculine man, but she's built for beta males, and she doesn't deserve either.
Whoa, man.
That's what a woman said. And it's very true, man. Like, and it's not saying that guys are not at fault for things. We're idiots sometimes, and we screw up our own relationships. But as far as like the modern blue collar dude who's just trying to get by and live his life and create a family, oftentimes he does it out of pure love. And other times his woman usually has some underlying incentive as to why she's getting married or why she's with him. It's never under true love. And it's always when the guy becomes an asshole or a dick, or he's looking at other women, And all of a sudden he becomes
it's a turn on.
Yeah, he becomes love material to his woman.
Dude, they get wet off of dudes being pieces of shit, bro.
Yeah.
I've done that experience even in my relationships. You know what I'm saying? Like, be nice, and the chick could be a feminist. I did it through feminists and stuff like that. Like, you know, be proper boyfriend material, all that Prince Charming BS that they raised us off of. Yeah, exactly. And then as an asshole, yeah, exactly.
I'll take your flowers and chocolate, but I'm gonna go screw this other guy who looks like a badass drug dealer.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So I would just be like, you know, I would go through phases of being an asshole just to kind of keep her interested. Like, oh no, I don't feel like hanging out. Valentine's Day, yeah, whatever. You know, my birthday is before Valentine's Day. Right. It's all about me. Screw this. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, I still want to come over. No. Yeah. And then the next week, man, that would be freaking. You know, I'm just keep this PG, but there would be freaking like Amazons in the bedroom. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, bro. One thing I can't stand is the fact that the view is that men and women are somehow not, when it comes to any topic involving men and women, somehow it's not mutually exclusive to society. It's like that's all society is composed of.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you talk about men's issues and women's issues and then you talk about society's issues and it's just like, well, when people have these discussions, it's like it's all a separate thing. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous to me. When really, women perpetuate certain things and men perpetuate certain things. But the difference between men and women is that most of the time, men are held accountable. Mm-hmm. And we're being manipulated and abused the most. Yeah. Because women can't hold that argument anymore that, women are oppressed, this and that. No, you're not oppressed if you get to walk down the street with your ass cheeks hanging out. That's not oppressed. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're not oppressed when you get to shout at a man, beat him up, and go on protests with your tits hanging out, calling it freedom and liberation. That's not oppression. That's first world problems.
You know even the oppression is like first world stuff. Like, why? Or the whole gender pay gap, which is, you know, debatable. It's highly debatable. Maybe you can in the 1950s era, it's completely debatable. Like they can't even have the conversation about it, you know, whatsoever. It's just, it makes logical sense for a corporation, right, to pay you less, especially like we were in the military, right? In the military, the woman in the military have the easiest of any job there whatsoever. Right. You get paternity leave. Yeah, you get paternity leave, right? Where if you get pregnant, you get that time off, right? You get the time off paternity leave, and then after that, you don't have to do physically demanding labor because you're recovering from basically your child's birth and stuff like that. And guess what? You can also get out of deployments. Let's say you don't want to go to war. I had a guy that was a retired E8 told me this. He had personally female troops do this, where they didn't want to go to Iraq or Afghanistan. So what they did is they got knocked up, right, to stay in the States. And then later on, they actually got an abortion.
Yeah, and then they get the benefits of the military.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Because an abortion is paid for by your healthcare.
Right.
Because you get free healthcare being in the military. So it's like, you know, all this oppressive, like, you know, stuff is just an excuse. Basically, they don't want equality. They want to be the new oppressor.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned that, bro, because both of us, you know, I'm ex-military. He's still in the military, and I've seen it myself. They do it in masses. It's like a thing to just get married, get pregnant in the military, and for selfish desire, selfish means. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, you mentioned the wage gap, bro. That it's the biggest falsehood I've ever heard, man. It's just like women. It's too many dynamics to it. Women makes different choices than men when it comes to careers. Not only that, it's just I don't see women lining up in masses to have lawsuits against these companies that are supposedly paying them less. Because if you look at any contract you sign when you get a job, which you're supposed to read, when you get a job, it says that they're not going to discriminate against you in terms of sex, race, religion, creed, whatever the case is. So the fact that you sign a contract with a company that claim that, and you're saying that they don't provide this on a mass scale, mm-hmm. I just don't see people lining up with the lawsuits. I don't see any women at the courthouses lining up for the lawsuits. It's bullshit. Your plight doesn't match the actuality of the situation.
I even made this challenge to a woman. I was like, hey, for transparency reasons, right? How about everybody has to register with the federal government, every employer, to put how much they pay everyone. And then that would prove the gender wage gap. They didn't want to do that. Well, no, you know.
Wait, say it again. They have to do what?
Basically, on a federal level, employers will have to report how much they're paying everyone, and also put down their gender, their sexuality, what race they are.
I think they already have those demographics, though.
Mm-hmm. And just make it transparent. Like, I could just give a social security number. I could put down, somebody like, that I'm interested in and see how much they're getting paid or whatever like that. Or if we work for the same company, I should have access to look at how much they're getting paid compared to me because they're one of my peers, right? If I want to insinuate that I'm not being paid equally. Right. But no, they don't want to do that. Overwhelmingly, the conversation doesn't revolve around that. Because why? Because that's going to overwhelmingly dispel any notion of the gender pay gap,
Yeah, and that's honestly like some in terms of how it relates to the manipulation of men and using love. Obviously, we see love as a weakness, but some men may not. Some men may be happy with the women in their lives, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that we are being manipulated on a mass scale, and society is women are helping society to perpetuate these kind of attacks on us, these undercover, indirect attacks on masculinity. I mean, look at the home destroyed. Look at the number of men and not raising children that are their own.
Yep.
Look at the number of divorce rates.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if especially in California, I think it's over like 60% or something like that, are up there, and it's like, okay, that's more than half. So if more than half of the people getting married, that's like if somebody told you, hey, we're going skydiving today, but 60% of the people don't make it. Are you going to go skydiving? It's like, why would I want to do that? You know what I mean? And so it's
exactly.
But 80% of those skydivers, let's say the skydiving instructor is actually the one who's killing those people.
Yeah.
That's kind of what marriage is. It's like 60% of people are getting divorces, but 80%, up to 80% of those divorces are initiated by women.
Well,
so it's like, oh, woe is us. The divorce rates are so high. Families are falling apart. The world is just chaotic. But it's like, well, if you're a perpetuator of it, then you got to do something about it. That's why I know it seems like, it seems mundane that I kind of talk more towards the woman's side, but it's like, men, we're out here trying.
Yeah.
We're trying to build society and build a future for ourselves. We're just ridiculed at all spectrums. And you got the guys that kind of go along with those programs that are fucking simps and feminized men.
Yep.
Because they, at the end of the day, want to favor women. If they're not gay or not some other shit, they want to just favor women so they can get pussy at the end of the day. And like,
yeah, and also the reason, gay men, they really get validated by women.
That too.
That's why they always have a crap ton of women friends and not straight guy friends. And it's not because of, quote, homophobia by straight men. No, a lot of it is that women are the ultimate validators. And even to the other straight men, like, they want to have a lot of female attention, so they dress flashy, they get a sports car, you know what I'm saying? They start playing music. Why? Because they feminize themselves. Yeah, because they want female attention. Because having a bunch of guys validate you is not enough. You know what I'm saying? You can have best friends, but if you get a bunch of girls, you know what I'm saying, interested in you and constantly coming up to you, that's the ultimate validation in our feminine guy-centric society. Shout out to my girl Nicer. Hey, welcome Nicer. Thanks for always supporting us. You're always the first one in the building. Hey, Sisters Therapy. Oh my God, bro. I don't know if you ever seen her videos. This is Sisters Therapy. She was the hijabi sister that's in the UK. She does therapist and stuff. She's a therapist.
Wow, mashallah.
Mashallah. Hey, thank you so much, sister.
Thanks for joining.
Interesting topic. Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah. I haven't seen you in such a long time post Ramadan. I think you had the last video you did was mental health during Ramadan. That was really beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much, sister. I watch pretty much everything you ever do. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get other people into your material as well. But yes, sister, just to elaborate, just because you came in a little later, we're talking about, is love a weakness to modern day men? And modern day men, we're talking about a Western society, right? You're in the UK, so you have a similar culture compared to us. The UK, the Canada, United States, and stuff like that. Yeah. And from our personal experiences, we're talking basically in this dunya in the West, men are taught to be more vulnerable in that they have toxic masculinity. But when we do venture off into being a feminized version of ourselves, we're still treated like crap, and we're taken advantage of by toxic men. If you look at especially like hip hop, the drug dealer culture and all that kind of stuff, toxic men sometimes get the best woman and they get the most submissive woman because
women are willing to submit, at least. Yeah,
exactly, to a toxic man. Oh, alhamdulillah. Thank you, sister. Yeah. You're always welcome here, sister. In fact, you know what? I'm putting the link. If you want to get into this conversation, we always try to like have a woman's perspective. We don't want to be up here on that soapbox. Right. And then I know a lot of people would probably say, "Oh, well, you just hate women and this and that third." No, we love our sisters, especially, bro.
Yes.
You know, you can ask Terrence, brother, if I see a hijabi sister or any Muslim sister,
we need them to step up and be our support for trying to be leaders, trying to be men. We don't have a lot of that at all.
Yeah.
And usually the sisters that are standing up don't have men backing them up. You know what I mean? And it's like it's on both spectrums.
Yeah.
And we need to fight for each other.
Definitely
fight for each other. And you know, relating this topic to Islam, I think exactly what I said. I think we need more sisters. What's that one that she's a convert? She's on YouTube.
Oh, I know she does like philosophy stuff and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. Shout out to that sister, bro.
Shout out to her. But she's in full support. And she advocates for the for the health of Muslim men, and how the wives have so much power to bring them back to that level of masculinity by just submitting, and not submission in the form of rulership over your woman, but submission as far as like agreeableness, you know. And like how like in the game of chess, it's the woman who has all the power, but she does it in lieu of her king, so the kingdom can flourish and the game can be won. But if she's not, if she's working for the other side or just lets herself get captured, which most of the time that's what women are doing because they're hypergamous in Western society. Even some Muslims are falling into hypergamy. I know my ex-wives did, you know.
Because the Western culture is the dominant culture internationally now. You know?
And they just get along with that culture, and then they look at you like, ugh, disgusting, because you may not have the money, or you may not be looking a certain way. But they've seen you in your worst in one day, and all of a sudden that's all, they can't see you any other way. So now, you know, you were manipulated into getting into a relationship based on love, and to use your masculinity to sustain that love, and then it was all ridiculed in the end. And that's what we're kind of, that's our plight right now, is what we're talking about, is that I'll say it again for the sister that came in, just looking for her headphones. For the sister that came in, I'll say it that women manipulate love for power, and men manipulate power for love. And it's like, well, who's the real lover in that situation?
Yeah, his sister.
You know.
Thank you for your comment, by the way, for showing love and support, man. Because as Muslim men, especially, I don't care about any of these, non-believer chicks and how they view us as being attractive or anything like that. We get the ultimate validation for our sisters because women are the first teachers of the child, man. And even look at, the Sahaba, Khadijah and Aisha, who's the mother of all believers. We venerate these women, especially Khadijah. She took in the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he didn't have any money. He was illiterate, and she was a businesswoman. Can you imagine, like, these days, like, a modern businesswoman would never give a guy like that a chance. You know what I'm saying?
They're too good, actually. They're too independent for a man like that.
Yeah.
A homeless man who can't read or write? Come on.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
And she gave him a chance, and then look, he ended up being the prophet. You know what I'm saying? And, and so I unfortunately, like, materialism is a big thing. And I think a lot of it has to do with fathers, especially Muslim fathers. I'm going to be honest. Some of them, they treat their daughters like princesses, and it's good to treat your daughter like with respect and dignity and provide for her. That's your obligation as a father and as a man. But you can go too far and basically hand her everything in life. And then when she gets a husband, she's expecting the same thing. And it's like, no, there has to be some, a father's love is different than a husband's love. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys have to work together. You're a team. And yes, he's obligated according to the Sharia to provide you with certain things, but don't abuse that and take advantage of it.
Right.
Because
you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to do. No, it's you have to deserve it also. You know, Allah doesn't just say, He says, those are the things men should do, but he also says, hey, women, you have a role, you have a responsibility. That's why there's a whole chapter for you. The rest of the Quran is talking to us as men, through men, but there's one single chapter. He singled you out, women. Mashallah, and he tells you he tells us how to deal with you, not the other way around. Not for you to serve us, but how we serve you. And you abuse that. Don't abuse that, We're
not talking about you, sister, in particular.
Of course.
Yeah, we'll lie, bro.
Yeah. And then, dude, the topic of polygyny, bro, came up also, and how monogamy, how men are cornered into monogamous relationships, and even in Islamic households. and how that is also used as manipulation, and love and all that is used as a manipulation to keep him bound to one woman. And then it's just like, I heard a good quote: if women see sex as a burden in a relationship, why then must he be monogamous to you?
And here's my perspective on that. Okay, so most societies, and even throughout human history, women have outnumbered men, right? Let's say like we're going through the COVID thing, or
there's a hadith on that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, go with the COVID or any diseases. They had the Black Death back in the day and stuff. Let's say a disease comes out that targets, especially men are susceptible for it, because especially back in the day, men were the ones that go outside and working. So we were exposing ourselves more to like diseases, right? Or there's a war that happens. Most of the men die, like the First World War, the Second World War, right? Overwhelmingly, men died in the millions, right? And then so all those women that are left, you're going to say it's wrong for them to want a husband and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to end up being loveless and not being able to be a mother and achieve their dreams and goals of being a wife.
Right. And
that's because of quote monogamy and stuff like that. And it's ironic that this Western society, I can literally have orgies. I can like have multiple girlfriends.
Yeah, but bachelorette.
But God forbid me be married to more than one woman.
Yeah,
God forbid me. You know what I'm saying?
And then women try to claim, oh well, if you can do that, then I can have multiple husbands. But I've done the science on it, guys. Let me tell you, women physiologically and biologically are more prone to diseases, chemical imbalances in their brains, and health concerns when they push these sort of ideologies and they live them out. It's actually not healthy for a woman to pursue multiple men. And when you ask the modern woman, it's not even in their nature. They just do it out of sheer jealousy. You know, and I'm not saying that, you know, the woman isn't attracted to other men, but they do it out of sheer jealousy, and they're not attracted to men in the same way men are attracted to women. Women are attracted to men based on hypergamous reasons. And so, you know, the fact that a woman is perverting herself out to other men is the complete opposite of her nature. It's within a guy's nature to actually be polygynous.
Yeah, for me in particular, I want one wife for two different reasons. One, I feel like if I can't take care of one woman at a time, and then eventually maybe get to a point where I have multiple wives, I don't need to be concerned with that. Like some guys, they just want to, especially even converts, like, oh, I can get up to 4 wives. Like, bro, take care of one woman and then move on from there. Okay, we got sister talk in the house.
Mashallah.
Just 1 minute. All right, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. And we're gonna have to bring this a little closer because we're outside and it's kind of like noisy. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'll get that sister's
You want to hold it? Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, how's your day? How's your day, sister?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Is it muted or?
No, it's not muted. Oh, she went back off. Oh, hey, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, you got kicked off the stream, so yeah, we had to add you back. Sorry. We're bringing you a little closer because we're outside and there's all the cars going on and things like that. So sorry if you know, the view is not a little bit different, but thank you so much for sister. You're always welcome here. How's your day?
Firstly, thank you for having me, and I can hear you guys perfectly, so thank you. It was a good day. It was really a good day, more of a chilled out day. I'm loving the scenery behind you guys. How are you guys?
We're blessed, alhamdulillah. You know, I took this whole day off from work for various reasons. You know, I've been really stressed out for work, and this is just kind of like a mini holiday, as you guys say in the UK. You know what I'm saying? And hanging out with my brothers. You know what I'm saying? This is like, man, this is my brother right here from another mother right here. You know what I'm saying? Like we linked up and we're just kicking it, and
we've been vibing ever since, man. Like it's how long has it been? It hasn't been that long, bro. Like a few months.
Yeah.
It's only been a few months, but we think on the same vibration. I think that's what Islam is doing, really, man. I leave it to Allah, bro. It's all Allah, man. You know, at the end of the day. But we're just out here enjoying nature and trying to spread some dawah, and talk about real issues, that people are not willing to talk about, especially within the home and within the masjids and just out in public in general, so.
Yeah. And since I got you here on Serious Sister, we were at the a pro-Palestine protest the other day, and wallahi, there was nothing but sisters there.
Yeah.
Nothing but sisters there, whether they be hijabis or not, and they're all Palestinian sisters or Arab sisters. Maybe there's a few Somalis and stuff like that, and they're out there in the hot heat, you know what I'm saying, supporting, the liberation of Palestine. which may happen in our lifetime, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And so, and there were no brothers out there, and we called it out. They actually we got interviewed by the local news, and one of the first things they said is like, where are our brothers at? You got your mothers out here, you have your sisters out here, you have your wives out here. Where are you? And I think the Western beta male culture is infecting the ummah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
chasing the dunya. That's where they are.
We're chasing the dunya.
Wow.
And I know it's a must, but it's like we have to find that balance. If our women have the free time to do that, why can't we be out here supporting them?
Yes.
No, I totally agree. I think we should all be in arms when it comes to the truth. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So, sister, what? Since we've been elaborating on the topic for a while, and we don't want to beat a dead horse, as they say, what are your opinions on the topic? If you have any opinions on it, ma'am.
Yeah, of course. Firstly, sorry, I'm trying to remember the title because it was very catchy. As soon as I came on YouTube, it said that you were live, and I was like, oh, subhanallah, I have to come and hear what you guys are talking about, because it seems like a very interesting topic, and I think I missed quite a lot of it. So could you just update me on maybe what your intentions were behind the title? Okay,
so the title I'm looking at right now is Love a Weakness for Modern Day Men? And the reason I thought about this is because with our experience with relationships, whether it be a marriage or before, we reverted and we were having, relations with women outside of marriage, what I'm saying? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for our sins. We were talking about how when we talked about how being lovers and being providers for the woman that we were with, how that didn't work to our detriment and not for our advantage. And the woman that we were taking care of and that we were in relationships with, they weren't submitting to us. But we noticed that when we have what they call toxic masculinity, we were more successful in our relationships and getting what we wanted from women, unfortunately.
For the short term.
Yeah, for the short term. Yeah. And we were talking about basically even in our modern Western society, the men that make the most money, the men that are successful are heartless, right? They and we even look at the Me Too movement and all that stuff. All that's are like all of those examples are men with money and power, and they're able to manipulate and abuse women because of that. But a man that uses his money and power for the advancement of women, he gets treated like dirt. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's just our lived experience. But even coming, into Islam and looking from that perspective back out onto the Western world or Western ideologies that support that, we kind of see the same mindset where society pushes and helps to helps to perpetuate the use of love to manipulate and keep men down so that they don't ultimately rise up. And then when any time we do show any bit of restraint towards true masculinity, true wanting to be leaders, wanting to be true fathers and everything, we're what's the word, subjugated for. We're looked at as misogynist, or what are the other terms they use?
Chauvinist.
Yeah.
There's a million different ones because they've been a new one every month.
right. These made up terms that aren't even a decade old, so it's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And we just wanted to get a woman's perspective, to the topic.
SubhanAllah, I feel like you guys have covered mostly, if not all, to be honest. But maybe, I guess, if I could chime in from a woman's perspective, I think it's in this day and age, it's quite difficult, I think, to have this conversation. Only because from my experience, when I've spoken to sisters or when, there was the input of brothers, it's always seems like there's two parties that are trying to argue for their individual, I guess, rights. And to be honest, Islam is so far from, being an individual. We're actually more of a collective. Right. In terms of how we deal with one another and how our actions affect, each other as well. So what comes to mind for me, I mean, I know there's so much on the internet, and I feel like, when we're broken and we don't have anything else to offer, whether it's a man or a woman, what we'll do is we'll use whatever the, society tells us or society deems as, getting validated through that thing. So for a man, it could be finances. And for a woman, it could be her looks, which is really what it feels like to me has actually been, our whole experience as human beings have been reduced to materialism and tangible things. And I think when we take spirituality out of the equation, I really do feel like we have a chaos that builds, this seems to be a lot of chaos between the genders. And obviously we know Shaitan, that's his, I guess, qualification. He has a PhD in trying to divide, the people and put fear and, the love of the dunya into their hearts. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, purify our hearts. Allahumma ameen. I feel like when it comes to men in society and how men are presented, unfortunately, it's in a way where it's, you get the power, even right up from when you're a child, the characters that you look up to, or the people that you idolize, it's all to do with power, and not really about God. And there's a verse that comes, and same for women, it's all about, Barbie, like, having beautiful hair and looking a certain way, and you get attention that way. And I feel like there's one verse in the Quran, I don't know if it's Surah Rum or An-Nur, I'm not sure, but there's a verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that for for bad men, there's bad women. I'm not sure if it's evil men for evil women or bad, but one of the two words. And then this is a loose, I guess, I'm not, it's paraphrasing, so I'm not saying it verbatim. And then when we look at what Allah says is, for good men, there's good women, and for good women, there's good men. So I feel like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already, put the categories in place. And it's upon us to, hopefully strive, inshallah, to fit into that. And to be able to remove, those illnesses from our hearts. Because as human beings, we do want to be validated, we do want to be seen, we do want to be heard. But when we don't have spirituality in our lives, all we know how to get that validation and to feel, valued and accepted is through society. So I think it really disheartens me when I see the genders at war, like, because for men, I feel like they're so guarded, because when it comes to, I guess the bulk of the responsibility falls on their shoulders, even in Islam, like when it comes to providing and, being a protector. And when we live in a society where, all of that is almost stripped away from you, whether it's to do with government, steps that are being put in place to dismantle the family system, or whether it's to do with women who, for a number of years, yes, the women have been oppressed, and now it's almost as if, the pendulum is swinging the other way, where now women have become the oppressors. So I feel like the world seems to be upside down at the moment, and only Allah could guide us. But I really do think it depends on the individual, like what you seek, what energy that you're vibing in, learning and obviously seeking knowledge. Those things will help us to be able to have a good sense of discernment of the kind of people that we attract ourselves to, or the kind of people that we meet. So I think it's really important to know what you want, know what your values are. Do you want, and times have changed, so we have to move along with the times. Unfortunately now, a lot of homes, a single payment, a single income, should I say, is not going to be feasible, because the cost of living is quite expensive. So a lot of the times it's going to involve maybe the wife going out of the home to work, or if the brother can, sustain the family, does he want a wife that is going to be a homemaker? And also we have to get out of this mindset where we look at women who want to nurture and keep an upkeep of their house and cater to their husband, that we don't look at them as if they're backwards, and kind of almost make them feel like, well, you have of no value, because that's not the case. Unfortunately, I think men and women have amazing qualities. We all have responsibilities, and to keep a home going and to be able to sustain, you know, a family system, it takes two healthy individuals to start with. So yeah, sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but yeah.
I like that you said that, and I like that your theme is kind of centralized around spirituality. And I think from there, if we like you said, we're kind of like the collective. I think if we, you know, inshallah, we go from that perspective, then we can start teaching our children, our boys and our girls, how to be boys and girls, and I think those roles will come automatically. And you know, in uplifting, you know, what is the divine masculine? What is the divine feminine in Allah's eyes? You know what I mean? And you know, I really like that you've made an emphasis on that, though. Yeah, that's beautiful, mashallah.
You want to put in your page or your
yeah,
type that in, please. Yeah, sister, thank you so much. Like, and it's been a long time since I seen you, but I swear, you know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of glad because every time you do show up, it's so significant because you always come in on the really good topics. You know, I'm beginning to notice that. You know, and thank you so much for chiming in because I created this space to also get perspectives from our sisters too, and a lot of Muslim male content creators don't do that. Like you can go on to even some of the brothers I really look up to, like Muhammad Hijab, the Dawah scene. I've never seen any videos where they kind of have sisters' perspectives. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of problematic, if not very problematic. They're good brothers for what they do, but all too often the voice of our sisters isn't put out there. And in these days and times, we need all the voices we can get from the ummah. And the sisters are a major component behind the ummah. And especially, and if we don't have support, especially female content creators, female Muslim content creators, or at least them getting their voices out there about their questions and concerns on certain issues in the ummah, we're going to lose.
Yeah,
we're going to lose the atheism, feminism, and all that stuff.
We need our women. I feel like you're absolutely right, bro. We need our women to back us up. I mean, because think about a man talking about men's and women's issues, and think about what it would look like for a woman to talk about those issues, and on a mass scale. You know, if the more men that actually talk about getting the family back together, we're the ones who are ridiculed. But the more women who talk about family and traditional things, they're actually listened to more. So if we actually had more women and gave them the platform to come forward and be comfortable enough to share those ideologies, then I think we would be better off. And as men, we obviously have to step up and protect them to do so.
Yeah.
So we both got to play a role. Yeah. But absolutely, sister, you're amazing. May Allah reward you for what you're doing.
I mean, all of us. And thank you so much for having me on. And you know, subhanallah, I feel like there is, you know, good representation out there, but we could definitely do more. And may Allah reward you for even giving me the opportunity to come onto your platform. I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much for having me. And hopefully I'll look out for more topics because this is something that I'm really passionate about, to be able to bring, because like I said, everything starts off with two people. And even like in the therapeutic side of things, a lot of people go through trauma and, you know, they go through, like the brothers, sorry, quickly, just if I mentioned, said, about what is a divine masculine and what is a divine feminine, and you know, everyone has a different, I guess, interpretation of it. But for me, I feel like we have both of them reside within us, you know, because when I think of the 99 names of Allah and the fact that we should act upon them, you know, there are certain names of Allah that are quite feminine, like Rahma, Rahman, you know, merciful, the gentle, Latif. But then there's also names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-Qawi, you know, that are, you know, Jabbar, that are very sort of masculine. So when it comes to, and the hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him, where he said, you know, if we memorize them and implement them and act upon them, then we are guaranteed Jannah, inshallah. So when I think of masculine and feminine, I feel like we both have it within us, but it's for us to, you know, lead with what is our disposition and not just expect women to be men and men to be women. I think that's just reversal of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended for us to experience this amazing experience that we've got called life. So on that note, may Allah reward you, brothers, and I hope you have a lovely day or afternoon. and inshallah we will talk soon, and I'll catch up with you guys.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
And we're happy to have
Barakallahu
you.
feekum. Thank you. Bye.
Yes, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to the sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
So we got my brother Neophyte, man. It's been forever since I've seen you, man. I'm glad. I'm gonna start doing more streams this time of day because I see more people trickle in.
Yeah.
By all means. Oh, sorry. I think I got you on mute, brother.
No,
okay,
I put myself on mute. Yeah, I was just checking it, testing out my microphone, and just got a new one and whatnot. Hopefully it comes in clear. But yeah, saw your channel come up on one of my other pages. Decided, hey, let me just drop in and see what's going on with these fellas. How you brothers doing today?
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, doing good, fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. Just just enjoying nature, man. And I know that you're a part of the old the voodoo, you know what I'm saying, religion and stuff like that. I know that nature plays a big part in traditional African spirituality.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it just like,
I'm
bro,
exploring that myself.
yeah. And it's beautiful,
Right.
man. Just feeling. I think that's the reason that we as a community are suffering through so much is because we lived in urban areas. Now we're living in urban areas, and I think the city is unnatural. It's a very unnatural state.
Jungle, man.
Yeah, concrete jungle, and we're disconnected from the natural world. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's a natural healing process with just being here. Seeing the trees and breathing that fresh air, watching the squirrels run around, and the birds sing.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. Funny you mentioned that. I mean, I'm fortunate right now to be passing through Louisiana, and I get to enjoy this nature that's out on the outskirts. When you get into the major city, it's cool, but the real beauty really just takes part when you're outside of the major cities. And
Yes.
if you're really looking at it, a lot of the Black community lives in the concrete jungle. We don't live out, in the sticks. We don't live out in the outskirts primarily. We live in the major cities. We live in the major cities like that. We're disconnected from our natural way of life, and that puts us in an unnatural headspace. So we have these unnatural arguments. We have this unnatural way of dealing with each other, especially when it comes to our relationships with the opposing sex. So now we're, kind of trying to figure out ways to circumnavigate that. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's working very well, So we keep playing into the same arguing and bickering talking points where now we're vulnerable, and anybody who wants to play some sort of role in influencing you can dictate to you exactly how they want you to start behaving, acting, treating each other.
Yeah,
divide and conquer is easy.
Yeah, our people have become very, very feminized as a whole in terms of modern Western ways of thinking and destroying the family. And we don't. You're right. We don't get those frequencies and that breath of fresh air staying in the cities. We got all these radiation poisoning. We got all these. Our food is terrible because it's not coming from Mother Earth. And even if we do eat fruits and vegetables, they're not natural. No seeds and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like. I definitely think our people do need to get back to that. I mean, because as carbon-based beings, our melanin, is tied to the planet, to the earth, to the raw materials and resources of this earth, and and that's kind of what they wanted to take us from, dependent on them while they flourish, with all of our goods and all of our resources, and they take over our lands and destroy entire countries just to manipulate those things. And then replicate it in a false, world that we call the concrete jungle.
Word. Yeah, I feel that. Now about the topic, because I don't want to stray off you guys' talking point.
No worries.
Yeah.
I was trying to understand it a little bit more. Like, are we talking about how the Black man or how men in general are presented in a relationship, or quote unquote head of household, however you want to I guess present it. But
Okay,
how are we going about that? What is it?
Okay, so how we were presenting the topic is the way that in our culture, right, the Western culture in particular, and because this, ultimately we are black men, right, or melanated men, but everything that's a problem in the Western society hits us hardest, right? Yeah. So if you look at
the bottom of it,
we're at the bottom of it, right? And the way that the culture is getting with male female dynamic is men are supposed to submit to women, and women are basically given a free hand to do whatever they want to in a relationship, right? And men are basically slaves to accommodate to their wives or their girlfriends' lifestyles, and when they're no longer of use, they get kicked to the can, right? And men, it's ironic. We also talk about it's ironic that this feminized society, gynocentric society, values men that are sensitive and all this kinds of stuff, and that we want male feminists and stuff like that. But honestly, every single guy, including myself, that went down that route got treated like garbage. Girlfriend cheated on them, dogged them out, abusive relationship. My last relationship was abusive, and all kinds of stuff, right? And it's so ironic because all the guys I grew up with that were toxic, the drug dealers, the rappers, and all that kind of stuff, those guys got major respect for women. Like, even the guys that are abusive, like, they slapped their girl around a couple of times. That girl was freaking kissing his feet.
I don't know why.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. It's sad that it's like that. It's like society tells you one thing, but the people that reap the rewards are the heartless guys. Like, even look at the guys that are running the world, running the country. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the businessmen. Like, dude, they're heartless, cold bastards, for lack of a better word, They're not these loving, caring, freaking dudes. You know what I mean?
Right. I get what you're saying. I do have a kind of a precursor question for it. How old are you guys, if you don't mind me asking? Because I didn't catch that the last time we spoke.
I'm in my 30s, early 30s. He's in his
I'm in my late 20s.
Late 20s.
I'm 27, man.
Okay. Yeah. See, now that puts it into some perspective for me. Mainly, it's kind of that generational thing where we're in a shift, right?
Yeah.
Shift of power is changing, is being relinquished and going back to a much older way. Unfortunately, with these generations, my generation included, the critical mass of us are out of touch with how those societies back then functioned when it was a matriarchal society.
I mean, say matriarchal or patriarchal?
Matriarchal. Back in the day, it was especially when dealing with African African societies.
Yes.
I like using that word. I like using societies. I don't like necessarily using tribes, but societies on the continent were matriarchal, and they functioned perfectly well. Even if you look at what everybody loves to use, the Egyptian version or the Kemetic version, was looked at as a patriarchal society, when in actuality the pharaoh could be anyone who lived up to that level.
Right. Yeah. They were matriarchal, but presented or functioned patriarchally.
Right. It's a weird kind of way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But prime example, when Akhenaten didn't pass away, he was murdered. But when he was dethroned, Nefertiti stepped in because she was also pharaoh.
Yes.
Right. She was also at that level. She was pharaoh. She wasn't queen. There was no
feminine. Yes.
There was no level for that. There was no title for that. There was only pharaoh.
Yep.
Right. Then you had other female pharaohs in that king's list that actually functioned at that same level. Then we go further south. You had Queen Amanirenas. Queen Amanirenas functioned as king, not queen. She was the ruler. And when the Greeks came to challenge her
Yeah.
They didn't challenge a king; they challenged her. Period. Point blank, and they failed. We
Right.
gotta get that straight. She kicked their asses.
Yeah.
So what does that look like in the 21st century?
Yeah.
Right.
That reminds me of Queen
Where
Sheba also.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Queen Sheba and whatnot. But my point is, what does that look like in the 21st century? I mean, like, what does that shift look like? It looks like, personally, floundering masculinity, struggling to stay in power, which essentially that's what's going on right now.
Right.
Right? Trying to figure out how do we stay in power? Because masculinity does not want to relinquish power, but femininity is kind of coming back and tapping them on the shoulder like, hey, you ain't been leading right. It's time for us to, take that authority back.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, I personally think that that's part of nature. That's the natural move. That's the natural progression anyway. I'm not saying that men are going to be feminine. Let's get that right.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because when you agree that step up by the feminine aspect, it has actually been perverted, and now it's very toxic.
Yeah, and I don't even like using the term toxic right now because that's taken out of context too. Because even if it's a feminine ruled society, men still have the function of being men because procreation functions that way.
Exactly.
Whether or not you prefer something in your bedroom, I don't care. That's none of my business. But nature functions in one way. I mean, mentally, you can prefer one thing. Mentally you can prefer the same sex. I got it. I understand. I get it. However,
and dude, and really, sorry to cut you off, bro, because my train of thought is kind of like raspy and stuff like that, and I just remembered I actually forgot to take my medication today, so I'm gonna be like a little bit hyper today. So, what's it called? You brought up all those old cultures, but what's something that kind of doesn't get talked about? Those matriarchal cultures in African culture, almost every single African society had a warrior culture, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and
I mean,
now
and
these
some
days,
of the best ones were female. Some of the best warrior societies of those African cultures were female.
Yeah. And what's crazy is that the West in our culture right now, because it's an alien culture, is now it devalues a warrior culture, right?
Yeah.
It devalues a warrior culture. It says, oh, war is wrong and fighting is wrong, and it's toxic masculinity and stuff like that. But then at the same time, these women want protection for men. You only get the protection for men if you live in a warrior culture.
Right. And I like how the fact that you brought that up. The Black Panther, the movie, showed that very well, how his guards were all women.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a beautiful portrayal of how, the matriarchy was ran.
And it even happens in the Muslim culture. Believe it or not, there's examples, for instance, in Afghanistan. The second time the British invaded Afghanistan, one of their cultural heroes, their folk heroes, was a Muslim Afghan woman who fired the first cannon shot over against the British. She's like, hey, if I'm going to do this, like you weak beta male, you know what I'm saying? If you're not going to stand and fight for your freedom, I'm going to do it. And then all of them got inspired, you know what I'm saying? Like to go and fight and charge the British, knowing that the majority of them were going to die because they didn't have the technology or the weapons, right? And they went out there and they freaking, fought to the death because they were inspired by her, Yeah.
Right. I mean, piggybacking off of that and going right into my solution to it. And I say this a lot. I say this to a lot of different people that I come in contact with bear in mind, if they allow me to actually speak, my solution to that is to un-Greek that understanding of who Africans think they are. It's kind of a weird way of saying it, I guess. Let me rephrase it. All right. Black people need to un-Greek how they look at themselves.
You said un-Greek?
Un-Greek.
I like
Un-Greco-Roman.
I like
how you look at yourself in the mirror.
Un-Greek ourselves.
Hell yeah.
Right. I mean, because essentially that's how we perceive ourselves. That's the only lens we look at ourselves through. we look at Africans through Greek eyes, even though we're African too. We look at ourselves in a Greco-Roman kind of, and let's look at it like Victorian age as well. All of our standards of living, all of our ways of judging beauty and things of that nature, all comes from the lens of either Greek, Greco-Roman, Roman, or Victorian English.
Right.
And I'm like, if we changed that part, if we just changed the rose-colored lens for once, and look at some dark shades or something, we might actually, we might
I like
change
that you
our,
said that
our
because
perception.
I like to use Google as a reference to that, because anytime you look up something on Google, it never goes past Latin and Greek, the origins.
Right, exactly. I mean,
So
if
it's
we're looking at Latin, even Latin itself is borrowed from Africa, technically.
Definitely.
I mean, it's Venetian. I mean,
Yeah.
like, that means that Greek isn't even a language technically, or the Greek society don't have a way of communicating with each other without borrowing the Latin Venetian version of the African language in the first place.
Exactly.
So
And
I'm
that's where I wanted to mention the Hebrew Israelites. That's where they get it wrong, because even the word Hebrew is Greek. So it's like,
there it is. Oh man, that's hilarious. Like,
Dude,
so
this is going to be a final talking point, bro, because this is a really good conversation. Unfortunately, I'm using my laptop and we're not plugged into anything, so my battery's real low, brother. Yeah. But we're talking about good stuff. And hey, you got my email, right? Do you have my email?
If I'm not mistaken, and if not, I'll drop that in the chat right now.
Okay, word, man. We need to have a conversation about this history stuff, man, because that's my strong point, bro. I love talking about history, in particular. Bro, when we're talking about the relationships between men and women, the History Channel even talked about this, and the History Channel is like a worshiping the Greco-Roman culture, right? That's what they thrive off of. They even admitted they had the history of sex. They talked about the history of sex. Even they admitted that the Greeks and Romans had to learn how to love women.
Yeah,
they hated women. They hated women. You know what I'm saying?
That's a bit odd to me altogether. I mean, that would explain a lot of the patriarchal versions of our, and forgive me for saying this, but our great book of fantasy, our great book of fairy tales called the Bible. I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback from that, but when you start looking and breaking down actual events and comparing it to what mirrored those events in history, then it's like, okay, now stuff starts lining up. Well, no, we don't have any books or dates or references in the Bible necessarily, but we have references of people. And if we have references of people, then we can start putting location to that. But then that's when you start seeing truth. That's when you start seeing that, okay, we definitely need to go and relook at history, because there's too many portions of history that don't quite line up.
Completely agree. You know? I think the best history teacher, and here's where I get into because my channel is really based on spirituality, and I'm a little unorthodox about how I approach things, but the truth is the truth no matter how you give it, you know. So I like to say genetics is the best history teacher. If we actually look at our people, our black people, and look at our genetics and how it matches with reality and the cosmos and the world around us, you'll see that we are the origin, man. You'll see that.
Yeah, I can flow with that. Yeah, I can definitely go with that, because I mean, let's just look at geography real quick. I know you guys' battery is about to die, but real quick, geography wise, or hell, logistics, right? And I keep coming back to this same argument when we're talking about that very critical moment where the Hebrews cross the Red Sea.
Yes.
And I keep coming back to it. I understand that they didn't cross the large portion of the Red Sea. Got it. They went across the Suez, the Gulf of the Suez. I got that part too. But what stands out to me is the fact that Moses and his brother and whatnot had to go and see Pharaoh, which was at the Red Sea, or not the Red Sea, but the Nile. And the Nile, from the Nile to that that Gulf of the Suez is still a long trek.
Right.
Problem is, how much time did it take for that to transpire? And then they start giving out numbers and estimates on how long it took. That's where I'm like, okay, well, mathematically and on that landmass, if you're traveling back and forth, it's not a straight line. You can't, because it's mountainous terrain.
Yeah.
So and what the tools that they were using, the chariots that they were using, I mean, you only can go certain mile per hour.
Right.
Logistically, on that geographic location, then you start having real questions like, okay, how exactly and where exactly? And you know, it can give you a timeline, but it doesn't. So anyway, I mean, I've been going on a long tangent about that. And I know I always get a lot of pushback for it, but I always have to put that out there. Even if I'm wrong, if you question it, you still come up with questions that can't necessarily be answered.
Right.
Right. So wrong as I may be, if you ask those simple questions right there, it goes into that. And if you can question that, then you have to question where we're getting our examples for what the home is supposed to look like, and why are we taking an example from these folks and not those folks?
That's what I tell people all the time. We look at the history of the modern religion, which is the main one is Christianity. We look at the history of the people telling. It's very simple. It's very simple a breakdown. If the Romans were against Christ, so-called, right? Because that's supposed to be what it's based off of, right? If they were against Christ, how are we listening to them tell a story? The Roman Catholic Church,
right? Who's narrating this story?
Right, exactly. Like, and that's why I look at the scriptures as more allegorical. I look at and it does jump back to the whole African spirituality and spirituality in general, the zodiac, constellations, astrology, all that, things that we used to, look at as modern sciences, people now see as fairy tale. And in terms of looking at what's fact, they rely on the Roman Catholic Church, who is control of all religion on the planet, Mm-hmm.
Right. And again, it brings up another question with the calendar itself. The calendar itself seems to be a bit off. In my personal opinion, the calendar seems a bit off.
Yeah, we follow the Gregorian
in Africa,
the Gregorian calendar. Yeah,
more and more society. Yeah, we go into the Gregorian calendar, but what was that beforehand? What timeline were we looking at? How many months were there essentially in the calendar? Yeah, there's only 10.
Right.
There's only 10 months there, and then to alleviate some timing and whatnot, to make it more easier to digest, I guess, they added 2 more months and named them after particular people. Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar.
Yeah.
July and August. Which still kind of throws off your whole timeline. It offsets your dates. It adds and it throws off where we should be in nature.
Right.
Like, and that's critical. Like if we're following our natural cycles and whatnot, it would be very important to know what cycle is the planet on, and our calendar beforehand kept track of that. And then we switch over to this Gregorian calendar, and it throws off your whole thing. It throws off all of the carbon dating. It throws off all of anything that predates biblical time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's built in. Also, the tilt of the earth. Also, I think a lot of that is because they obviously use astrology and all that, but obviously it's twisted because the earth is not on its proper axis either. It's supposed to be spinning a certain way, and it's not. And
it's called a precession of the equinox. It's a wobble. But
what's up?
Every planet, it's called the precession of the equinox, and it's a wobble. Every planet has it. It's a vibration. That's how our Kemetic ancestors kept track of very specific dates. That's why everything was extremely accurate back then, is because they knew that it was a wobble.
Yes.
But when you take that wobble away and everything is fixated on just one position, now you don't have that wobble. Now you don't have your vibration. That's how you lose track of where we're supposed to be in nature. And I mean, and it seems like a bit of a stretch, but it would kind of explain why we're so off in our connections,
Yeah,
in our
exactly.
relationships with each other. It's long stretch. I'm reaching right here. I'm extended out.
No, I get it.
But
They
it's
say in astrology and deep study of the zodiac and everything, they say that the moon actually makes you, if you go off the lunar calendar, you're actually 2 years older than in what you are on the solar calendar.
right. I mean, as a man, I suggest personally that if you start studying the moon cycle, if you start studying that, and don't think of it as devil worship, it is science,
It's
please.
science, yes.
But
I study all that, man.
if you do that, you actually indirectly you now understand um, the woman's cycle. And now
Yes,
that you understand that cycle, you can relate more to her.
yes.
And don't eh, eh,
That
by all
feminine
means
ass
be
energy.
humble. Right, be humble when you're approaching that because it's a sensitive topic. Most women don't even understand their own cycle. But
Right.
if you be humble when you're talking about it and just let it take its own natural course, but now you understand what's going on, then you open up conversations. That humility allows you to approach a deeper understanding to the opposite sex.
Definitely.
They are literally connected with the natural math of this planet
Yes.
through the moon cycle. And if you can understand that along with them, then you just destroyed barriers right now. You just like destroyed any wall that you had
Yep. In the
with the
Quran,
opposite sex.
obviously, yeah, absolutely. In the Quran, it talks about when Allah says that, or he describes the cosmos and the signs. He says the stars, sun, and moon are all signs for the truth in His creation, right? And he says he
Word.
gives attributes of the sun. He calls he, and the moon he calls she, and that should tell people a lot. It should tell people a lot, and they should really dive into what those really mean. And that's where
Yeah.
like I said, for me, religion is more of an allegory, more of an anthropomorphized version of higher aspects of reality. Um, but a lot of
Yeah.
people they can't see that. They can't see past that surface level. But you're absolutely right. I think if we study that more, yeah, well, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and now
I'm actually
don't get me wrong. I don't have anything against anybody who practices Islam. I do not have anything that against people who practice Christianity and whatnot. I just feel that we definitely have to put the science back into ourselves by studying our African
yep,
originality, our African culture,
yep. Most of
way
the
of
African,
life.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I'll-
because that brings back the science and understanding of what is going on in nature. So we're not lost when it comes to like grand scheme of things. It you can't separate your soul and whatnot, your spirit or whatnot from what happens in nature because without it,
exactly,
it
exactly. And that's beautiful. I like the way you put that, man. You have a good way with words, mashallah. You're absolutely right, and I think that like the African Muslim, the African man that practices Islam, it's actually a science to him, and that's when the Islamic Golden Age was actually at its peak. Was when Africans ruled it, and they saw Islam as I self law am master. You know, which was the actual science to them. They studied the self, right? And actually, Allah says in the Quran too. He says there are signs within the horizons and within yourselves, and it's like it's up to us to kind of understand what that is. And I feel like many people have already explored that for us. So it's all about using our discernment and following the link between us as the original man and the cosmos and nature. Absolutely right, man.
Yeah, hey man, well I got a dip, man. But of course, as always, man, you hit up on some pretty good topics, man. So we got to elaborate. I got your email right, and then so I'm definitely going to elaborate this with this more on you. Like send you email to have a one-on-one about history or historical topics and stuff like that. If I don't hit you up, see this video and let me know what's up, and then I could resend you one. I'm copying and pasting your email right now, so I don't forget about it. But thank you so much for joining on, man. Take care, man. And you know what I'm saying, whatever your spiritual, you know, that spirit you follow, whatever like that, you know what I'm saying, may they continue to bless you, man.
Inshallah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And the same for you guys. By all means, hit me up. You have my email address. I'll send you my phone number if you need it. Obviously off air. I don't want anybody calling me being weird. But yeah, we can take this conversation a little further. That way, the next time you have a live or anything like that, then yeah, we chop it up beforehand and get everything cracking.
Inshallah, man. Take care, brother.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to meet you, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Pleasure. Ashe, peace and blessings.
Ashe. Yes. Ashe.
Right on. Later, man.